Luffy's devil fruit is the mythical zone fruit model Monkey King Sun Wukong. That might sound crazy, but One Piece is actually heavily inspired by the story of Momotaro, the journey to the west, and, as author Eiichiro Oda stated himself, by Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball, whose main character is called Son Goku, which is literally the Japanese name for Sun Wukong. And as I will show you, Monkey D. Luffy's character and journey to become Pirate King clearly parallels that of the infamous Monkey King who rebelled against the gods before finding enlightenment.
ある土地では D の一族をこう呼ぶ者たちもいる。神の天敵。
What's up? My name is Manu, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been looking for an excuse to make this video for a long time. I absolutely love any type of mythology, which makes sense because it's basically the granddaddy of all modern fiction. Ancient anime, if you like. Also, in case you're wondering, I'm back in Europe for a few weeks, so new old backgrounds. And no other epic has been as influential for the unparalleled rise of shonen anime throughout the world as the so-called Journey to the West, a novel published during the Ming Dynasty in 16th century China that tells the story of the monk Xuanzang and the Monkey King Sun Wukong on their adventure to retrieve the sacred Buddhist scripts. Not only was I surprised to find out that Sun Wukong is actually the archetype shonen protagonist, but more importantly that together with the story of Momotaro, it serves as one of the major inspirations for One Piece and its protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy. And now, with recent events in the story, it seems like there is way more to Luffy and his powers than we all originally thought. As you know, I've been talking about Luffy and his abilities quite a bit recently, speculating about his awakening, the true nature of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, and the secret behind devil fruits overall. But when I started combining my research on devil fruits and One Piece's ties to mythology, nothing yet has had me as excited as the idea that Sun Wukong might be a much more literal part of Luffy's character than I originally thought. Because as I will show you, Luffy's devil fruit might very well be the mythical zone fruit of Sun Wukong himself. So, who exactly is Sun Wukong anyways? Sun Wukong's name literally translates as the monkey awakened by the emptiness and is meant to represent his spiritual journey from an ignorant, short-tempered monkey to a benevolent, enlightened being. Even though technically he isn't the main protagonist of the journey to the west, he might as well be. Not only is he the most famous character of the story, but the entire first part deals just with his origin story. Part 2 then introduces the monk and sets up the quest. Part 3 details the adventures and journey to acquire the sacred scrolls, and the last chapter then quickly describes the party's return home, where the monk and Sun Wukong both reach the status of a Buddha. Now, despite being over 500 years old, the story is filled to the brim with a mixture of humor, epic action sequences, and an odyssey of self-realization and achievements. As far as I can tell, at least. I don't actually speak Chinese. And this popular format has since become the blueprint for story arcs within many of Shonen Jump's most popular titles. To be precise, Sun Wukong's story follows the exact same arc that JoJo author Hirohiko Araki describes in his book Manga in Theory and Practice, that has been nothing short of a true treasure trove for my videos, by the way. So I encourage you to try and pay attention to how much Luffy you can recognize in this next bit. Being born from a stone, similar to how Momotaro was born from a peach, Sun Wukong trains with the other monkeys on his island before setting out into the world, seeking new powers, learning to be a leader, and even ascending to heaven itself, where he eats the forbidden fruit of immortality. While he's very kind, he's also extremely careless, eager to get stronger and fight, and basically just wants to have a good time. Feeling like nothing and no one can possibly stop him, he causes havoc with the gods who can't seem to stop him until the Buddha himself steps in, who seals him under a rock. To grow as a person, he is then sent on his journey with the monk and 2 other demon comrades, which is grouped into a number of arcs, very similar to what we know from shonen anime. And so the Monkey King goes through a lot of change throughout the story, acquiring new and strong abilities, fighting the forces of heaven and being utterly defeated, finding loyal companions, and ultimately achieving true greatness. His godly powers include superhuman strength, speed, and the ability to transform into 72 different forms. He also wields a magic pole that can be stretched and shrunken, and a magical cloud that he can ride through the heavens. And even when facing seemingly unbeatable opponents, Sun Wukong always displays a certain playfulness, enjoying fighting against worthy opponents and quickly becoming known throughout the demon worlds. Now, if you're anything like me, you already know why I say that this story was the blueprint for modern shonen anime. This character trope can be found in 9 out of 10 shonen stories after all. The most obvious being of course Dragon Ball and Son Goku, who literally is the anime version of Sun Wukong, at least until Dragon Ball then starts going down a completely different route later on.
Is to go even further beyond!
While Goku is known for his naivety and childish nature, he also has a more serious and overconfident side as well, a trait shared by Sun Wukong. Goku's eternal rival, Vegeta, can also be seen as a more ruthless version of one of his demon companions, who is powerful but still falls behind the main hero in terms of strength and transformation. Naruto is not a demon monkey, but a demon fox child. His major redemption came from his victory over Pain, a villain who is the literal embodiment of Buddha's path of reincarnation. Just like Sun Wukong, Naruto is able to create clones of himself and even shapeshift into other living beings, like his infamous sexy jutsu. His own quote-unquote path to Buddhahood is also reflected in his powers, first gaining access to his Sage mode, then literally taming his inner demon before finally acquiring the 6-path Sage mode that gives Naruto an ungodly amount of power. Which now finally brings me to One Piece and Luffy and why his devil fruit might be Sun Wukong himself. By the way, if you enjoy this sort of content and don't want to miss out on any weekly videos, it would mean the world to me if you consider subscribing to the channel and becoming part of the crew. So I know you probably already recognized a lot of Luffy in what I've been telling you about Sun Wukong, but let's go through all the parallels we have in case you missed something. The first, very obvious connection we have is of course Luffy's name. He's Monkey D. Luffy, who wants to become the king of pirates. Monkey King right there. Also, Oda confirmed that Luffy would be a monkey if he was an animal. Personality-wise, Luffy perfectly fits the kind, powerful, but often reckless and impulsive nature of the Monkey King. Only that instead of a world of demons, Luffy lives in a world of pirates. Luffy's journey in the very first chapter begins in the East Blue, making his way towards the west end of the Grand Line, which I found just such a sneaky detail honestly. And in the very same first chapter, Luffy eats his devil fruit, just like Sun Wukong, who ate the forbidden fruit from the Heavenly Garden that gives him the ability to stretch and shrink, just like the Monkey King's staff. All of that just in chapter 1. From here, Luffy sets out to find the One Piece that contains the true history of the world, the sacred knowledge, just like the sacred scrolls.
最後の島に着いたあの日、俺たちは世界のすべてを知った。
He finds loyal companions that accompany him on his journey. Just like the 2 demons from the journey to the west, Luffy finds the ruthless pirate hunter Zoro, who has the theme of the Buddhist demon Ashura, and who rivals Luffy's own strength, though always being slightly behind him. As well as Sanji, who with his theme of the devil, Diable, represents the second food-loving demon companion that, by the way, also has a real thing for women.
Ashura! 一無限!
He also meets Nami, who not only starts wielding a size-changing staff, but also has acquired Zeus, a cloud that she can ride on. I personally think that Oda really wanted to bring those elements into the story without making it all too obvious by giving it directly to Luffy. Though, to be fair, we actually did see Luffy using a staff as a kid. Similar to Sun Wukong, in the first half of the story we see Luffy seemingly being invincible, beating every opponent he faces, no matter how strong, using his indestructible body and will, and his ability to transform in crazy ways as he becomes more and more infamous in this world of pirates, just as the Monkey King did in the world of demons.
初頭の手配から3000万ベリーは世界的にも異例の破格ですが、決して高くはないと判断しています。ゆくゆくの拡大を防ぐべきでしょう。
And just like Sun Wukong, Luffy seems to befriend everyone around him, even though he previously might have fought against them. The Monkey King also getting a lot of help and favors from many of the characters he previously went against. Sun Wukong also has a weakness to smoke, which seems to be represented by a character literally called Smoker, a marine with smoke abilities who keeps interfering with Luffy throughout the story. Luffy takes his adventure as a joyful game, where he wins no matter what, always becoming stronger and playfully conquering the Grand Line. He defeats the very first god with Enel, who tries to kill him with lightning. Just like the gods tried and failed to destroy Sun Wukong with lightning. Then, on Enies Lobby, Luffy declares war on the Celestial Dragons, heaven itself, even punching Charlos on Sabaody. In the Journey to the West, the heavens represent Taoism, but since the author is a pretty big advocate for Buddhism, the Buddha is the true heavenly force here. Similarly, the Celestial Dragons are not the right gods for the One Piece world, but someone like Luffy, who's on his way to enlightenment, has to be the one to bring true peace. First, however, just like Sun Wukong, Luffy needs his moment of reckoning, as he is humbled by the Buddha himself. This of course happens during Marineford, Luffy's lowest point and biggest moment of change in the story, as I've discussed in past Luffy videos. Luffy has to learn that his carelessness and recklessness has risked the life of his crew on Sabaody and has cost the life of his brother during the war. And just like Sun Wukong, he is literally crushed under the palm of the Buddha. Then, Akainu tries to burn him to ashes, just like the gods tried with Sun Wukong after using lightning, but they failed again. And just like the Monkey King, who was then buried under a mountain for a time to grow and contemplate, Luffy puts his straw hat on this rock to train and grow for 2 years. It's from here on out that Luffy becomes more thoughtful, gets a more serious outlook on the world, and starts to develop significantly as a leader. And so he picks up his journey again, now equipped with a variety of new forms that not only have a very Buddhist feel to them with Gear 4, but also have attacks inspired by animal names, reflecting Sun Wukong's abilities to transform into different animals and change his size. Kong Gun? One thing that has been missing about Luffy is the theme of a deity or god that Sun Wukong represents. However, even that has now changed during Wano, where Luffy has not only been linked to the sun god Nika, but also to the Wisdom King by Hyogoro, with Oda hinting at Luffy being a reincarnation or having inherited the will of a previous god. And Luffy's journey will end with reaching Laugh Tale and finding the One Piece, which will enlighten him about the true nature of the world. This will signify his rise to becoming a Buddha and becoming the true god that can strike down the false celestial dragons. And on top of all this, there are a lot more themes from the Journey to the West sprinkled throughout the story. The existence of three-eyed people that have the ability of true sight, Sun Wukong defeating and sort of befriending a dragon, let's see what happens with Kaido, and much more. Now, all of this has been much more analysis than theory. But now with all that being said, despite the Pirate King Monkey D. Luffy being clearly inspired by the Monkey King, why should his devil fruit actually be the literal mythical model Sun Wukong? And big thank you to Winville for sending me the idea for this and who also drew the concept for the thumbnail here himself. What crazy talent. Thank you to you. Okay, so we've seen that Oda connected Luffy to Sun Wukong in the very first chapter through the Gomu Gomu no Mi, eating a forbidden fruit that gives you powers, yada yada. Now, that would also explain why Luffy's fruit might still give him a rubber body, with Oda basically giving Sun Wukong's stretching staff and shapeshifting abilities a twist and uniting it all in one power. Luffy is basically the staff, if you like, and we even see him using his fruit to fly through the sky like a cloud. So, there. Now, the basis of this theory that I was sent is actually not the journey to the west at all, but Momotaro. But I think everything we've talked about already gives this theory way more credibility and a way better foundation now. As we've discussed in countless videos by now, Momotaro is the basic inspiration for Wano. You have Momotaro, Momonosuke, who has to take down an Oni, Kaido, and he needs the help of 3 companions to do so: a pheasant, a dog, and a monkey. Now, the reveal that really made this theory possible is that of Yamato's mythical dog devil fruit. Because now we have the mythical zone devil fruit user Kaido, the dragon, Momo with the exact same devil fruit, and Yamato with a mythical dog zone that now leaves us with the pheasant and the monkey. Now, conveniently, we do have a mythical bluebird on Wano with Marco. Who could the monkey possibly be? You see what I'm getting at here? Luffy is clearly the monkey in the Momotaro story, and all characters inspired by it have eaten a mythical zone devil fruit, except Luffy, who has eaten something Oda calls a special paramecia that not only looks like a Buddhist deity, but also gives Luffy the exact abilities to transform his body in any way imaginable, plus fire powers. And we now know that Shanks went out of his way to steal this fruit from the government. Plus, I just realized with Sengoku's Buddha from the Journey to the West, we have another mythical zone fruit joining the mix. Oh, also, admittedly, only in the anime, we get this sketch from Vegapunk's lab showing what happens if you merge what clearly is Luffy's devil fruit with a rocket. And as we know, objects only seem to be able to consume zone fruits. And so if the true awakening of Luffy's fruit is actually the monkey god Sun Wukong himself with all his crazy powers, that would not only connect him to Joy Boy, who might have been its previous user, but also make Luffy the literal embodiment of the deity that can bring down the false gods. Now, of course, there are also other possible reasons why the Gomu Gomu no Mi might be so special, so I strongly recommend you check out this video on why Shanks stole it from the government next.